Good morning from New York. I'd like to give thanks for all of the people that made this possible today. Uh, the list could go on and on. Big Linux, big shout out to Big Linux. Made, made this possible for a dummy like me to, well, maybe you're not happy about that, to be online with video. And big shout out to all the people who work with Linux. Thank you so much. Done so much for the world. All the Linux reviewers and consultants. You are wonderful. And yeah, big shout out to all of the educational videos on YouTube. Uh, there's some good stuff out there if you're discerning. Great stuff. The topic today is the UU Church toxic empathy and why it can hurt to think. That is the UU Church toxic empathy and why it can hurt to think. Comically, my ex wife of mine, when we were getting along, said when I would think, she had really high IQ. So when I would say I've been thinking, she'd always ask, did it hurt? Um, I think it can. I'm going in reverse here, but yeah, I think it can. And I think the reason is that from the inner mind communication perspective, is that thinking involves subjective and creative and compassionate, even compassionate forms of thought, where you try to feel what the other person feels, understand their situation, so on. Yeah, the reason that can hurt is that the symbolic defenses against feeling helplessness that may have occurred in a person's life, before. Um, Helplessness to get needs met. So, what do these approaches do? They dismantle that symbolic defense. The symbolic, remember, comes from the need to find something that squashes the anxiety around the helplessness that comes from traumas. So, people, it's a tough world, everybody's got trauma. But these things will make it more difficult for the symbolic forms of that need in the situations around it to hold up. Objectivity can make it hard to believe in Santa. Um, Compassion. If you're really, really hurting, somebody offers you compassion. Well, that can open up. It helps, but it can also open up the the real need, the need to express. So that cuts through the symbolic defenses as well. And so does creativity, looking at things from different perspectives. Just consider politics and how people clump together, and churches do. They clump together with certain unreal sorts of beliefs at some point because they don't challenge those beliefs. Why? Because the beliefs that people choose are the things that comfort. That comfort was absolutely necessary when trauma occurred. Absolutely necessary. Stuff. That's why you see the wars and things that go on between people's different belief systems. Because what can comfort one can discomfort another. Oh, you don't get to go to heaven by one of my religions. And it reminds me of a joke, where brings this to light, where someone's traveling through a little town, and there's two churches, and the first one is in the middle of a psalm or a song that goes, "Will there be any stars in my crown?" Something like that. Oh, will be any stars in my crown? Yeah. And then as they pass the next church, they're singing, "No, not one. No, not one." So, and that's why, say that religion, it tends to divide people, but there's reasons for it being there. And politics the same. The two topics you don't want to discuss at a family reunion: politics and religion. And that is exactly what the church does. It discusses religion and politics. It invites people of all of these different persuasions to come together. One comedian in Benny Hill over in England, he once said that they were going to, somebody was going to have him come on and kind of "This Is Your Life" kind of show. And he goes, "Calamity." Anyway, calamity. So it's they need to you need to find what clumps you together, and healthier people will tend to clump together, and because they can handle more things, they're a little bit more open to these forms of empathy. Oh, toxic empathy. What's that? Well, that's where you're caring about others to the point that hurts you. You know, and all of these things are a matter of degree, right? But if it's doing such damage to you that you can't give back and love to others very easily, um, you're killing yourself. Well, that's what I would call toxic empathy. So on the one hand, the empathy kind of softens the blow of objectivity, creativity, and compassion. And it's a nice, gentle way to help a person learn helplessness around feeling those original needs. And it also brings them up. And you dial up the objectivity, compassion, and creativity. Um, you're breaking it down. You dial up the the empathy part, you dial you you dialing down the impact in terms of getting to a point where you can feel and know what the, the needs encased in helplessness and potential extreme anxiety. So it's a matter of working with these forces that can help you to get inside yourself. And it's also quite true, the infant mind perspectives on mind communication. That that's a problem. Now, why? Yeah, because traumas that occur before you have language are more impacting. It's a wordless terror. A little bit of an overstatement in some cases, but in others, no. That stuff has to be outright repressed, to help you survive. Chemically, just so you come in, and the brain has to shut it down as much as possible. That suppression, if you do things like work on those areas that are precursors to the forms of empathy, like play, focus, and meditation, and expression. Well, in relation to your feelings, this also breaks down those defenses, those pre-verbal defenses. You can have almost, well, all of this stuff is brain and brain chemistry and so on. That's over my pay grade, so find a video with a smart person. But those things can be triggered. And it's one lady, as an example, one lady I was suggesting that, gee, have you tried meditation? And she said, no, because, thinking stops. And it terrified her to stop thinking. Why would it stop? Well, thinking is a distraction in some ways. It's the involvement in the drama of your life, even though it's symbolic, still a kind of distraction from the anxiety pain. So very valuable, and if you stop the thinking, you contact the infant mind, and when you do that, you open that up, then you also open up the pain that's there. That's why in primal therapy, they don't, that would be like first line. And you don't go straight to that if you can help it, because that's a lot more intense. And I require a little chemistry, psychiatry. So, but a lot of them in psychiatry don't even understand. They understand the symptoms. I mean, and they have some theories about the chemistry, and that's good. And they treat that, but they might not get this Genovian primal insight. Yeah. We all lack in one way or another. You can have professional doctors who go a little crazy, and physicists do. They can lose it, and start going into bizarre sort of things. That you know without real evidence. Start not using their science mind. Because there's some belief that just has to be true. Why the rigidity like that? Pain, anxiety, pain from trauma. Things need to be in order, and when it doesn't seem to fit the order that you think it should, it can be very upsetting. Right? So now the UU Church, well, like I say, politics and religion, of different brands can be very upsetting to people. And the job of a church is to be an extended family. So think family reunion. So you've got to get around direct impact from those sort of things. You have the inherent value of church organizations or church-like organizations. Your temples, your mosques, and all of this. You need to stay away from, as much as possible, the religion and the politics. So, you say, how can you get away from religion and be in a church or a mosque? Well, a lot of people are. They really, ask them, about their scriptures and what they say, and they can't tell you, especially the negative things there. They're not aware. They go, actually, their attraction there is more emotional or cultural, and it helps them feel better, and helps them feel they have a place in the world, and what that is, and that's comforting, right? It doesn't do a lot for spiritual growth. So if you're going to focus on spiritual growth in a church, well, that's hard, but there's where mysticism comes in. It's like every religion seems to understand or sense that there's something greater, an absolute truth or reality, which some personify and some don't, and yeah, that's the common ground. People have that sense that they're part of this big absolute reality, and but so that's a joining point that an extended family can work on. And you can use the techniques of inner mind communication, sometimes with professional help, in order to help people find a healthier and more expansive, virtuous life. When I say expansive, virtuous life, what am I talking about? You get goodness from objectivity and objective empathy. Need that. No, you don't get goodness from objectivity. Oh, you see these things over and over again, and then I get it wrong. You get truth, the virtue of truth from objectivity, coupled with empathy, which I call objective empathy, and you get creative empathy, you get the virtue of art, and compassionate empathy, you get the virtue of goodness. Um, so yeah, and you in growing in these things is spiritual growth, and it's also spiritual healing. If you're touching on unlearning helplessness, uh, damaged faith and love. That's the lighter level of the IMC process. Um, that's connected to big, the big self, little self, the kid, and the direct and the inner counselor communication. It's on the verbal level. Even really people diagnosed as psychotic, they can be helped with that. Uh, Wisdom help too, maybe. But yeah, that dialogue inside your head, that you can say out loud for greater impact. Um, yeah, that is milder. It's in the range of what I call damaged faith and love, just which a term I created to talk about helplessness, pain that is of a sort that you know what happened to you pretty much. Symbolic. You had words to deal with the trauma. It's also deals with anxieties more present and looking into the future. It's that's third line in primal therapy. Um, yeah, third line pain. Um, that is the softer thing. That's what I call working on damaged faith and love. You weren't loved, and you know this is okay. And then ACEs is more from your childhood developmental uh, period in your life. Traumas then, which in primal is the second line. This emotional impact. Well, it can it can be something that they actually understand and knew what happened to them, or they may not. Um, these things all overlap. Okay? It, but there's some sense to dividing it up this way. The second line, that's the next level of anxiety pain, um, especially since it can deal with deep developmental needs, which might not be thoroughly understood or grasped by the person at the time. Again, maybe a little extra help. That might be the beginning of greater need of someone who's trained in IMC. Um, and, if it's more chemical, which it can be a little bit at that level, psychiatry. Um, and deeper than that, which I call toxic helplessness, just to emphasize the impact. That's what in primal Genovian primal therapy is the first line, and that's where like wordless terror I mentioned lives. with that, you know, would you know that you need that? Well, if you have night terrors versus nightmares, there's a big difference there. Nightmares are more from ACEs situations, that kind of pain, that kind of anxiety pain. Whereas night terrors can be more likely attached to this wordless kind of anxiety, and it's more apt to be a more of a need, a possible need for the magic of chemistry. Um, Dealing with that, you might be have a psychiatrist helping you with that. But it's like exercise, the more hurt you are, the more damaged you are in different ways, the more you need professional help to exercise. But you shouldn't cut people off from exercising and using their own good sense uh, completely. They like to take a walk and it doesn't hurt their feet and their back or anything, okay, do your own thing, go to the gym. But, and know that the other things are there. Uh, so if you're practicing IMC, and then I'm getting off the track of some of the things I was talking about, but but it's something that the UU Church could use, this kind of understanding. Just understanding it, it's not a big problem. And, grasping it, people can't grasp these things. They're hurting too much, probably. Okay. And only a professional might be able to help them, although I've used some of the techniques myself when in situations in a church I was in to help schizophrenics pull out of fits of babbling and things like that. And it can be used to comfort. IMC techniques can be used to comfort, um, and they should always be used as an approach that tries to comfort. Um, but it can be individualized. Um, for some people, you got to know the person. That's empathy, right? If they're very comforted with music, then encourage them to listen to music. Whatever comforts a person is a marker for, a starting point on a journey toward unlearning helplessness. So, oh wow, that's some heavy stuff. It's very hard to speak so much. Shout out to the people who are professional speakers. You amaze me. Because you ain't got nobody to talk to. Basically, talking to yourself or who you imagine might be there, right? That's pretty hard. So shout out to those people that have that ability and they can keep people listening. If you've listened this far into this, amazing. It shows that the more you've listened and the farther you've listened into the things that I'm saying, probably the less you need what it's what I'm talking about. But yeah, all of these things are pretty basic. I mean, basic things. Society, and you do deal with that every day. If someone who has if like the first line, or the second line, comfort, no. The, it's, sometimes patterns don't match. But, and that's good, because then you have to study. But, Big Little, it's reduce it to that kid, inner counselor, is something that you can, it's very light. And so it's a very light approach that can help people that have very probably first line issues. Um, that is displayed in the name that they chosen is Emotions Anonymous. They can't handle the drama in their life, their emotions. That's toxic to them, just to go directly to that. So you need a little bit of a sense of being here now, objective, in order to just talk about feelings. So that's your talkie therapy. That's where that that branch of IMC is related to. Counseling. You go to your counselor and then you try out a little inner counseling. That's not a bad idea. So, yeah. And so again, that's something that can be used. And if it's just third line pain, just oh, these phones can be extremely annoying at times. But it also tells me I'm going over time. You're going, duh, right? Yeah, this has been a long road. All right. So, yeah, try to tie this together. My advice to the UU Church would be to back away a little bit from, you're dealing with religion, and just talk about it. Don't get too involved in it. It's like a family reunion. Support health, which everybody's concerned about, as a draw, and try to create the extended family. So to me, that means a 3-generation family. Helping people have that extended family means that you got their back. So you should be service oriented with a church type organization, and you should be where the people are. That's another thing. And you should be aware that you might be attracting people with needs you can't handle. Well, here you go. People will probably not feel comfortable with a church that's healthier and able to do all of the, for instance, all of the steps, or understand all the steps and not see that and so you can't be too partnered with people you're helping. That's for the lonely professionals role. if someone's in your family and your church family, then they need to fit, and that there's going to be um, those who suffer less or more from these things that we're discussing. UU Church tends to suffer a little less and attracts people who are a little more skilled in objectivity and compassion and creativity than most. So it's a bastion for rational liberals. So, another term I threw out, yeah, there you go. I'm not talking far left or far right. Talking about healthy, which isn't always in the middle. The middle in the United States indicates the general health of people, spiritual health of people in this country. And where the sanity is greater in the middle range politics than, say, in some countries in Europe. That is that's they're healthier spiritually. But we are healthier than a lot. And the next step for a lot of the countries that are really overwhelmed by those kind of toxicities is definitely the United States is a role model for those. It's the next step for them. Go further than that, but their neurological next step, in my opinion, would be to mirror the United States. Why we like to influence, but we need to also be influenced. Anyway, that's just my personal opinion. Right away, I'm coming up with arguments against it. But yeah, there's a lot of professionals online serving our communities. Thank you to those people. Hey, I guess I need to say just directly thank you. You know who you are. Neil deGrasse Tyson, Michio Kaku in physics, Thank you. Anyway, we'll end with that. I'd like to say at the end of my presentation, reportedly done, is namaste. All that's spiritually healthy and embracing of the desire to connect to the more absolute reality of things. That part in me would like to honor that part in you. Is namaste. Namaste, y'all. Have a good day.